trip to Egypt has been in my bucket list for a long time. Finally, this year, in the month of April 2023, I got an opportunity to visit Egypt, and I've tried to capture whatever information I could remember, gather, and put it together in this YouTube because I found it very difficult to retain all the information. It was an information overload. So I hope you enjoy it just as much as I enjoyed making it for you. The Great Pyramid of Giza is the largest Egyptian pyramid and the tomb of the 4th dynasty pharaoh Khufu. It was built in the 26th century BC during a period of around 27 years. The pyramid is the oldest of the seven wonders of the ancient world and the only one to remain intact. Initially, the height of the pyramid was 481 feet, and the Great Pyramid was the tallest man made structure in the world for more than 3,800 years ago. Sorry, for more than 3,800 years. Over time, most of the smooth white limestone casing fell out, which lowered the pyramid's height to the present 454.4 feet. What is seen today is the underlying core structure. The base was measured to be about 230.3 meters or 755.6 feet, giving a volume of roughly 2.6 million cubic meters. The Great Pyramid was built by quarrying an estimated 2.3 million large blocks weighing 6 million tons in total. The so called Queen's Chamber and King's Chamber contain a granite sarcophagus above ground. There are smaller tombs for the immediate family and the court of Khufu, including three smaller pyramids for Khufu's wives and even smaller satellite pyramids. The Great Sphinx of Giza is a limestone statue of a reclining sphinx, a mythical creature with the head of a human and the body of a lion. This creature is facing directly from west to east as it stands on the Giza plateau. The face of the Sphinx appears to represent the pharaoh Khafre. The Cairo Tower offers one of the most amazing panoramic views of the Egyptian capital. It stands 187 meters tall and has a restaurant at the top. I believe the restaurant can revolve itself around the tower's main axis. The tower was designed by the Egyptian architect Naum Chewib. I hope I pronounced it right. Its completion took 5 years, from 1956 to 1961. The Roman amphitheater of Alexandria was discovered by a coincidence in the year 1960. When the workers went to remove a pile of dust and sand in 1960 to clear the land for the construction of a government building, they found some solid iron columns, indicating that there may be something buried underneath. Immediately, the excavation work began in the location, and it was carried out by the Greco Roman Museum and the Polish excavation mission in Egypt, sponsored by the University of Warsaw. Shortly afterward, the excavation revealed one of the most important discoveries in Egypt of the 20th century. Pompey's Pillar is the name given to the Roman triumphal column in Alexandria, Egypt. It was set up in the honor of Roman Emperor Diocletian between 298 and 302 AD. This giant Corinthian column originally supported a huge statue of the emperor in armor. And this is the only ancient monument that is still standing in the original location today at Alexandria. The catacombs were named Kom el Shukafa, meaning mound of shards. This area used to have shards of terracotta, which mostly consisted of jars and objects made of clay. There is a beautiful story which surrounds this. These objects were left by those visiting tombs. They would bring food and wine for the for consuming during the visit. However, they were not expected to carry these containers back home from the place of death. So, these containers made of clay would be broken and thrown in the corner. At the time of discovery, heaps of these broken plates were found. The high dam is spread over 4 kilometers, spans across Sudan and Egypt. In the summer, the height goes down to 36 meters, and otherwise it's 100 meters in depth. It's an amazing sight of water in the midst of the desert. Blue, blue Nile. When the Aswan Dam was built, thousands of Numidians had to be relocated because their islands, their land was submerged. Some of them, I believe, were sent to Sudan, and some of them were placed, rehabilitated in some of the islands where we paid a visit. It was very interesting to see a beautifully painted primary school with an air conditioned classroom. And we got an introduction into the alphabets of Egyptian and also the Numidians. And what surprised was the teacher had a cane which he showed around, but he did not use it. After all, we are visitors to the country, right? Next, he took us to a home of one of the local people, and what they served was something like chapatis. It was delicious. Delicious is an understatement. It was finger licking good. At Esna, there is a lock and dam system located on the Nile River. It was built in the 19th century to facilitate the navigation of boats and ships along the Nile, particularly during the times of flooding. It was recently renovated. Lock Gate has the water limited and it is saved and used for future. At the lock gates, they prepare the crews to deal with the difference in the water level. They bring your crews down with machines and you can literally feel it going down. We saw it go down about 5 to 7 feet. We didn't mind inhaling the fumes of the diesel from the huge boat which was in front of us because we were fascinated to see that the water level was going down and we were going down along with the water. The temple of Hatshepsut is the finest example of the brilliant architecture that once existed in ancient Egypt. It was built for the 18th dynasty, the pharaoh queen Hatshepsut. She was considered the daughter of the very powerful god in Egypt and ruled for about 2 decades in the image of a man, as the Egyptians did not allow women to be the rulers of the country. She was elevated to the great position of the wife of god Amun, which is the highest position anybody can get. Her husband died, son was still a child, so she controlled the affairs of the state as a co regent till she was crowned the Pharaoh of Egypt. The temple has 3 levels. It has a shrine for the goddess Hathor, who is depicted with a woman's face and cow's ears holding a musical instrument. The third level houses a portico with the double rows of columns that face the front. The Luxor temple was constructed in 1400 BC. It is not dedicated to a cult god or a deified version of the pharaoh in death. Instead, the Luxor temple is dedicated to the rejuvenation of kingship. It is possible that pharaohs of Egypt were crowned in reality or conceptuality. To the rear of the temple are chapels built in Amenhotep III of the 18th dynasty and Alexander. Other parts of the temple were built by Tutankhamun and Ramses II. During the Roman era, the temple and the surroundings were legionary fortress and the home of the Roman government in the area. During the Roman period, a chapel inside the Luxor temple, originally dedicated to the goddess Mut, was transformed into a tetrarchic cult chapel and later into a church. The Luxor temple was inscribed on the World Heritage List of UNESCO in 1979. Tutankhamun was between 8 to 9 years of age when he ascended the throne and became a pharaoh. He was one of the few kings worshipped in this manner during his lifetime. During his reign, the position of the vizier was split between Upper and Lower Egypt. In the Valley of Kings, we could not visit the chamber of Tutankhamun. It required an additional ticket, and also it was too hot to see yet another tomb. It is also believed that his original tomb was one of those very few which were not pilfered by the robbers. The twin statues depict Amenhotep III from the 14th century BC in a seated position. His hands are resting on his knees and his gaze is facing eastwards towards the river. The two shorter figures are carved into the front throne alongside his legs. They are his mother and wife. The side panels depict the Nile god. The original function of the colossi was to stand guard at the entrance to Amenhotep's memorial temple or mortuary temple, the massive construct built during the pharaoh's lifetime, where he was worshipped as a god on earth both before and after departure from this world. The obelisks are representative of a homage to the sun god. The pharaohs considered themselves to be the sons of the sun. They erected their own obelisks in honor of certain events. In each of the 4 faces of the monolith, inscriptions were sculpted that glorified the pharaoh. The obelisk symbolized stability and permanence. The obelisk, built in the year 1457 BC during the 18th dynasty, is the second biggest of all ancient Egyptian obelisks. Made of one single piece of pink granite, It has a height of 28.58 meters and a weight of 343 tons. It is located in the big temple of Ammon in Karnak. Ramses waged a war against the Hittites. The battle went on for 15 years. At the end of the 15 years, they signed a treaty to end the long war between the two groups. This is known as the Eternal Treaty, and this agreement was the first of its kind in history, with surviving documents from both sides. The original tablet, dated 1269 BC, was signed by the king of Hittites and Ramses the pharaoh of the Egyptians. When Horus was an infant, his father was killed by Osiris's brother Seth. To keep him from getting harmed, the mother hid him in the marshland of the Nile, where she protected him from the poisonous snakes, scorpions, crocodiles, and other wild animals. As he grew up, he learned to ward off danger and became strong enough to fight Seth and claim his rightful inheritance, the throne of Egypt. As a result, Horus is associated with the title of kingship, the personification of the divine and the regal power. Horus is the son of Osiris and Isis. He is one of the many gods associated with the falcon. His name means he who is above and he who is distant.